Okay, I think we're ready to go here. Hi, everybody. I love seeing people checking in from all over the world. I see Europe's well represented, France, Spain, Belgium, Sweden. We have United States, Hawaii, Oahu, same place, Ohio, Delaware. Um, Hello to South America, Argentina, and here in Canada we have Ontario, Vancouver Island, which is north of me, where I'm up north in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. And I want to show you a picture. Unfortunately, no matter what I do, it's coming up upside down. Uh, I can't figure it out, but this is. So you're gonna have to strain your neck a little bit. But this morning, when I drove my kids to school, this was my view. Only right side up. I wasn't upside down in the ditch, thank goodness. Maybe just let me know you can hear me, somebody, so I know I'm not. I haven't missed any buttons that need to be pushed, and then we can get started painting here in a moment. Hoping you're loving my upside down picture there. Yeah, it should be coming up. Okay, and so yeah, I'm assuming that my landscape photos that I'm sharing here are all upside down for you guys as well. And so we're gonna have to, you're just gonna have to use your imagination. I don't know why when my, I don't know why when my title screen looks just right, and then I load a picture from a different folder and it's upside down. It's just bizarre. So, but we're gonna be, I'm gonna be working on some of the inspiration from my. Hi, everybody. I'm quite inspired by the beautiful soft sunrises that we've had this in our area. It's been cold and snowy here and lots of frost. And so it's this beautiful shades of white and blue and pinks in the world. And because that's very different than what we see here in the summer, it's really nice to have a different kind of scene to paint. And of course, then you are also looking at using a different color palette. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I'm going to talk about it as I work on a painting. Up until now, our live classes have been me sharing a tip or technique and not painting a scene so much, little doodles here and there. So today we're going to work on a sketch, a study that's been inspired by my view. And you guys are from all over the world, so you have very different views than I do. But one thing I love about the winter is that when the land is covered in snow, it can be really helpful for a landscape painter because you start to see, you see the contours of the land so much more clearly. And you know, it's not covered with masses of grass and weeds, but the snow just smooths everything out, and it really helps you if you're trying to figure out how to place different elements in your scene, where the land should be when you're painting, because when we're painting a landscape, we're dealing with background, foreground, and midground, and sometimes it's hard to figure out how to position all that and to give that sense of a sweeping landscape. And so painting a snowy scene can really help with that because it just simplifies it a bit and simplifies the shadows and the light and the different levels in the landscape. So we're going to work a little bit on that. My reference photos that I'll be working from are not going to be upside down, and then you'll be able to look right at my work surface as I paint and talk about what I'm seeing and the decisions I make in my painting. A real priority when you're painting a scene like this that's very soft and beautiful is to keep the colors pale. And as watercolor artists, because we use the paper as our white, and any time we cover up paper with paint, we're losing those whites. We're taking away light from our painting. And so we really have to keep, really a lot of what we're doing will be about self-control. And when you're thinking about being self-controlled as you paint, a really simple painting can actually say a lot about the level of self-control you're using as you paint, because, you know, to keep things simple means making those decisions to stop rather than keeping on painting and thinking, oh, I can fix it later, which I think is often what happens when you're painting in a medium like acrylic or oil, where you can cover up your mistakes with more paint. We don't have that luxury in watercolor, not nearly so freely, and so we spend a lot more time thinking before we lay down those brush strokes. So I'm just going to move my camera right over to my work surface, and then we'll get started. And I'll have some info for you guys towards the end with a book referral and the supplies I'm using in today's lesson. So I'm just going to switch the camera over and we'll get started. And while I'm doing that, you guys can look at this upside down landscape again. And if you do have questions, feel free to ask those as you're watching, and I will kind of scroll through the chat section and reply to those questions towards the end of the lesson. I think we should be good where you can see my work surface here. And there we go. And I have actually, what you're seeing here is just the edges of 2 palettes. And I'm actually I actually have 4 here. And I'm gonna switch which ones you see, because I think I'll be going to these colors more than the colors in this other palette. And I have 4 palettes here because, not because I'm going to use 48 colors or anything like that, or 80 colors or whatever fits in these palettes. It's because, you know, certain colors that work well together don't happen to be in the same palette. And as an artist who paints primarily in the studio, I can have that freedom to keep several palettes on the go instead of trying to figure out how to perfectly structure one single palette. You know, I'm just looking at you guys' comments about the seasons where you are, and I find it fascinating. You know, for 5 years of my life as a teenager, I lived in Papua New Guinea, which has is tropical rainforest, and it's green all year round. So I really love having the change of seasons here because we missed it when we were overseas. And yet there's a beautiful beauty in the tropics as well. We know that. I'm trying out a new brush. This is a Princeton Neptune number 10 round. And it's a nice brush for this size of painting. This is about a 7 by 10 inch piece of paper. And the paper is from Indigo Art Papers. It's a 300-pound watercolor paper. And I'll talk about why I like that paper in a few minutes. With a new brush, make sure you soak it in some water to get that sizing off that they put on there to help the brush keep its shape. And when your brush comes with this little plastic tube, this is meant to be thrown away after you have taken it off the first time. The problem with keeping it is it seems like a good idea to just put that back on and keep your bristles safe, but the problem is when you're placing it back, it's very easy to take a few hairs and bend them backwards as you slide that tube over. And it's very hard to get the brush, keep the brush nice when those little edge bristles are always getting bent backwards. So I recommend you just throw this away. Then you can store your brushes upright or flat so that the bristles don't come in contact with a lot of action or friction or whatever, and your brush will stay quite nice. You can, if you're traveling a lot, buy a brush holder that will keep your brushes nice, and I recommend those travel brush holders for any time you need to be traveling with your brushes. Okay, so moving back to getting started here, and sometimes a brand new piece of paper can be a little scary, and that's we all feel that way, so the best thing to do is just to go straight into it. And I want to start by painting the lightest part of my scene, the brightest part, which was my sky. And I'm looking for a good yellow here in my palette. And I think this is Aureolin way over to the side. You guys can't see it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that because it's a lovely pale, clear lemon yellow. And I'm going to mix it with a lot of water. And I'm actually going to bring it over so you can see it. I just have a little smear of it over here, but it doesn't take much when you're painting in pale colors. Remember that my risk here is going too dark. And I don't want to do that. So I'm much better off erring on the side of caution, starting with lots of water. Over here beside it, I have Naples yellow. It's a little grubby on the top. So if I wanted to paint that really nice and clear, and that might be a nice soft, it's got a beautiful soft buttery look. I could just clean it off a little bit. The grungy stuff was just sitting on the surface of that dry pigment. So I just wiped it off with my brush, and I can grab a little bit of that and mix it into my mixture. And that's actually just toning down that brilliant pale lemon just a little bit. It's a little bit duller. And this indigo paper you're not going to see this first brush stroke because it's so pale. But this indigo paper is a little bit on the off-white side as well. So we might have to compensate for that. So my first brush strokes are very hard to see, and that's okay. I can now go in, because it's nice and juicy, and dot a little bit of yellow along my horizon line. There's some hills here, so it's not a straight horizon. And then I'm just going to add some water and pull that color upwards. Just a little bit. And I'm using lots of juicy pigment. I'm just trying to get it set up so I can see my reference photo and my video screen and a little bit of the chat so that I can keep tabs on everything that's happening. And now we just want to, in my photo, I'm seeing a lot of pink. So I'm going to grab a little opera pink. Holbein Bright Rose is a really beautiful, brilliant pink as well, or quinacridone magenta. And we're going to dot a little bit of that in. And this is so soft and subtle, I'm a little worried that it's going to not show up well on the video. And I think sometimes we feel like we need to overstate things when we're painting, that we exaggerate our colors. And I love doing that when you're painting something that's bright and brilliant, to exaggerate it and make it even more brilliant than it is. And I like being kind of an exaggerator when I paint, paint with a few exclamation points. But when you're painting something that's soft and subtle, we have to remember that our eyes are very capable of recognizing very subtle gradations in shading and in color. We have very sensitive vision to that sort of thing, and so we can keep things soft and subtle. We don't have to exaggerate it. Now, I want to work more on this. I feel like it should be a little bit darker, but before I do that, I want to put in some of my blue. The sky was turning blue up towards the top of my page, and so we're going to start adding some blue. And you notice I'm not rushing. You don't have to feel like you're in a hurry if you keep a nice juicy brush, and you'll know things are juicy and moist on your paper, because as soon as you touch that brush stroke down, things will start to soften and diffuse. And this is Cinereous Blue from Sennelier, which is a very pretty, believe it's got a little bit of cerulean in it, which is a beautiful sky. Beautiful kind of aqua-ish shade for skies. So we're seeing a little bit of gradation from the yellow, then the pink, then the blue. I love when I'm painting a sky or a sunset, I think it's fairly, most of the time I want to try to avoid having my yellow and my blue touch, because of course when yellow and blue combine we get green. So it's nice to add a little pink in there for a buffer, and that just gives us a more natural transition. Even if you're not really seeing pink, even if it feels like it more goes from yellow to orange, it can be a good idea just to have a little bit of that buffer in there. Blue and orange are naturally complementary, and so they'll be a little bit murky when they combine. And actually, sometimes when you see a sunset with clouds, pay attention to those dark clouds in the sunset, because they'll be kind of almost a neutral, a murky color. And when we think of them as more of a violet or gray, if you really study them, you'll actually see that complementary mixture of blue and orange that combine to make them quite dull and neutral. So this is a very soft and subtle sky right now, and I'm really liking it. In my reference photo, there's a few little clouds here and there, and the clouds do have a darker shadow effect. I'm going to wait on those. They're easier to add a little more control over how much they spread and diffuse if I wait for this layer to dry and put them in as a second layer. If I were to take those grayish clouds now and put them on, because everything's so juicy, they might just flow and spread a little bit more than I want them to. I want them to stay kind of tiny and meek and minor in my scene. So I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to pop up the reference photo one more time. Like I said, it's upside down, which makes it kind of difficult, but it gives you something to look at anyhow for a second. I think it is this one. And So you're seeing the subtleties in the sky. I've brought up the color a little bit more, the pinks and yellows. So that gives you an idea of what I'm working on. You see the landscape here is the darkest part of the scene. So we can just evaluate and plan what we're going to do next. I talked last week about working past your plan. So when you're waiting for one layer to dry, take a minute, study your reference, figure out what you're going to do next. Always work to the next part of your plan and try not to work past it. Try to plan and know what you're going to do. We see the landscape is very dark. With sunrises and sunsets, we know our cameras tend to exaggerate the contrast. There were a lot more subtleties, and it didn't seem quite so dark when I was standing out there taking these photographs this morning. And so just remembering that it's not going to be as dark as it looks in the photo. I want to keep it a little bit softer. Everything down below was very cool though, and so we're going to work on that next. Just switch my camera back. Excuse me. You'll be glad to know that all my sick children are mostly recovered and they've passed their germs on to me, so it's my turn. So I'm taking it nice and easy this week. After I have worked with you guys, I'm going to go hibernate in my studio and move nice and slowly and do some painting. Okay, so I want to work on this area down below, and then the next decision is what colors am I going to use for my lower part of my painting. And I like sticking with a fairly consistent color palette, so I'm going to use the Cinereous Blue, which I used up here, but I want it to also feel a little bit, a little more in the violet shade, so I'm going to add another color to it. And I could just mix it with a tiny bit of the same pink that I use, the Opera Pink, or but I don't want to. I'm going to use my Cobalt Violet because I love Cobalt Violet, and it will add, and it's a very sedimentary color. It adds, as it dries, it creates beautiful texture that I really enjoy. So I want to use the Cobalt Violet to create my scene. Now, what I've noticed when I'm looking at a sunset is the upper part where it's contrasted against the brightest part of the sky is actually going to be the darkest area because you have that contrast. You have something really bright, the object beside it is going to look quite a bit darker. Sometimes, it's all about contexts. So this is the Cinereous Blue mixed with a little bit of that Cobalt Violet. And originally I didn't like Cobalt Violet because it was not a very saturated, it's not a super dark violet. I'm going to just start tilting here so I can move my hills away from my sky. I don't want them to flow up into the sky. Although there are a few places where I'm allowing them to touch the sky. Right here there's actually bleeding up a little bit. And I'm okay with that. I can give up a little bit of control to have a softer look. And there I'm putting straight Cobalt Violet in place. My reference photo is hidden behind other things. Where did it go? And I really like painting from a scene where I have recently seen it. It's very fresh in my mind. These photos were taken this morning as after I dropped my kids off for school. And so not only do I have photos that are very true to what I see outside, but I can remember what it looked like as I stood out there and took some pictures. And right now I don't really want a big flat area of this blue, so I'm just creating some variety by sometimes using the pure violet, sometimes using a mixture that has a little bit more of the blue in it, and that gives me some variety. And then these are distant hills, and the sunrise was actually a bit over to the side here, to the right side of my image. So I know that there was actually more color, more brilliance over on this right-hand side. So that means I could dot in a little bit of reflected light over here on this hill, which would have been getting a little bit of that brilliant golden light from the east. and just dotting a little bit of that in. The snow does reflect what's happening in the sky. And then we have the land gradually getting lighter basically as it moves toward the viewer. And when you're painting a landscape, the closest things to you on the land are going to be down at the bottom of your paper, away from the horizon. But in the sky, the things that are closest to you are going to be towards the top of the page, coming towards you. So the biggest clouds, if we were painting clouds, would be towards the top of my page. And I always like mentioning that because it was like a light bulb moment for me when I realized that. I'm always trying to figure out principles for placing objects in the landscape, and that's just one of them. And then there's a little bit of a pond right here. And so the land changes again where the snowbank kind of comes up to meet the road. So the snow, gives us a clue as to the shape of the land, the contours of the land. And then we have just bumps and tracks over here where animals have walked, probably deer. I always see deer on that side of the road. And possibly humans enjoying the frostiness. So we might put a little bit of texture over here. And I don't paint every textural detail. We just use brush strokes to suggest the shape of the land. And I'm just kind of skipping across and leaving white space. And I'm kind of liking the look of that. This is a first layer. And as you can see, my indigo paper, as I've painted, has slowly started to curve up towards me. It's not bumping and buckling, which you would notice in a cheaper paper. And a curve like this isn't really going to affect your painting much. You might just have to flatten it after. You can tape your paper so it doesn't bend or curve. I often like to use these bulldog clips and clip the sides of my paper. I just don't always plan to do it because I'm always in a hurry to get started. I want you to notice that as this is starting to dry, we're getting some beautiful texture. And this is the reason I love the indigo watercolor paper, is because of its beautiful handmade texture. And I'm just going to show you a piece of it here a little closer. You can see the texture there. And all that texture is little hiding places for the paint pigment to sit and create more texture. And because watercolor is always flat, we have to create that illusion of texture. So I love having a paper that helps me with that, and I think is really pretty. Now, here we're just going to pause again, and really I'm at the stage where I would need to stop and let things dry thoroughly. What I would do next is maybe grab a smaller brush, although this Princeton Neptune number 10 is new. So this, comes to a really nice point. And so I could easily paint my weeds and my grasses just by using this very tip of this brush and a very light touch. And that would give me my texture. Painting those little grasses sticking out of the snowbank brings everything closer to the viewer, helps the viewer make sense of where everything's at and the proportions of things in the landscape. And then I would want to go in and paint some distant hills as well. We need to wait for things to dry, which makes it difficult in a live lesson to ever complete a painting in one try. But we do have a lovely soft first layer. And just by using lots of water in our pigment mixture, keeping a light touch, not rushing in and starting to add those richer, deeper colors. I really like this little corner over here. Be aware as well that when you're painting with a light touch like this, sometimes once it's dry, you're going to feel like it's too pale and you need to darken it up. And that is possible. There is nothing stopping you from putting a whole second layer, another wash of color over your painting. The only time you might have trouble with that is if you're using a really cheaper student grade paper. That the student grade papers often have a lot of sizing, a very smooth finish to the paper, so that the pigment doesn't really ever soak in and become kind of one with the paper. And then if you're trying to do a second layer over top, you're going to find that that new layer of water is going to want to move the paint underneath. I'm not worried about that here because a good watercolor paper will have just the right balance of fluidity, giving everything time to move across the page while also absorbing so that the paint really does kind of bond with the paper and give you that opportunity to add further layers for depth and richness. I'm going to move over and answer your questions here. What I can do for you guys is upload and attach my reference photo, so I will add that into my description for the video once this class has ended, so that you guys have that to look at, because I know it's hard to kind of work along if you don't have a reference photo to see. And I'll let you look at it upside down again here for a second. That's not it. This one. So I will upload the other so you guys can see it. And I'm just going to move over and answer some of your questions and then share another art book for you to be inspired by today. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and really working, I like Kathy's comment from Texas, no snow here, but this technique would work very nicely for the coast. And I think so too. I think anytime you're painting maybe a softer, misty beach scene, something like that could be really beautiful. If you have a lot of fog where you live, you're going to want to use those soft colors and very diffused lines to create a soft and gentle technique. If you're painting an animal and you want to do the illusion of soft fur, there's a lot of times when we want to work with subtlety and delicacy. And so it's a really good thing to practice, and also a very good way to build a first layer of your painting. So if you're just wanting to establish the initial shapes and position of the elements in your painting, do a really pale wash of color to kind of indicate where everything goes, and then build up from there. Yeah, I apologize for my little sniffly stuffed nose here. I actually kind of like the opportunity to take it easy and drink lots of tea. And I'm enjoying working with you guys. This is our last live lesson before the new year. I'm going to take December off to work on some projects and spend time with my family, very important. But you'll be seeing more from me, so do watch. I will be posting some more videos on YouTube. They just won't be the live lessons that we've been doing. Moving back and just rolling through the comments here, I'll take a look. How do I like Princeton Neptune? The brush that I use today is a Princeton Neptune number 10 round, and I will share a link to where you can take a look yourself in the description of the video. And I do really like Princeton brushes, especially the Neptune series. They hold their shape really well. They make a lovely round brush, and I love the wooden handles. And I was given an assortment of Princeton brushes for me to try and review. So reviews are good here. I've only tried a few of them so far. They gave me a really nice selection. But I would encourage you, they're a great... they're a brand you can feel like you have a good brush with. So yeah, feel free to take a look at those. Moving through, looking back. I love you guys' comments. I always appreciate everybody, the way you guys share advice with each other, which is really cool. And Anna's wondering if I bought the big palette that I was sharing on my Facebook page, the Angela Fehr Watercolor Workshop. I haven't bought it. It's really beautiful, but that's one of those things I might have to, I'm still not sure if it would be quite fit what I want to do and work with my working method, so I'm considering it. Let's see here. Oh, you guys are so fun. Thank you for joining me today. Lita says, I seem to have some success in creating the first layers of my paintings, but I have great difficulty in doing the second and additional layers. I seem to get lost. Lita, I talked last week about working beyond our plan, and I think that's often what happens for us when we feel like we're lost, is we go to our painting with a great idea for the next step, and then that goes so well, we just keep going, and then we paint beyond what we'd planned to do. So I'd say really what I recommend is really take your time as you build a painting. Nothing says you only have to be working on one painting at one time. I like working on several so that I can work just in small bites, so I can do exactly what I feel like the painting needs, but not overreach, I guess would be the right word. Just slowing down and really seeing what the painting needs, because as soon as we pull in right up close to our painting, we tend to lose all perspective. And so when you've been working on something for an hour or two, and you're really focused in there, you stop seeing the painting as a whole, and you start working by square inches, and that can really block us from seeing what the painting needs, rather than doing seeing what the painting needs. Instead of doing that, we're just focused, micromanaging it, maybe is the right way to put it. I do have a resource I want to share with you today. You guys are from all over the world, and so you don't have the same kind of landscape as I see. And I think for me, sometimes, well, for all of us, sometimes we want to paint something, but we just don't have the perfect photo to help us get there. And I bought this series of books quite a few years ago. I don't use them very much anymore, but they're written by Gary Green, and they're called the Artist's Photo Reference Series. And this one is Artist's Photo Reference Landscapes. And of course, I bought these before we had the internet at our fingertips. It was out there, but not in use by the common man. And so we couldn't just go online and find these artist sites that provided photos for artists to use. And I think anytime you're using someone else's photo, it's important to, well, first of all, have permission, and but also we use them as a reference. And when it says reference, that's because you take a photo and then you make your own individual personal artwork from it. But I do really like these series of books. I have one on birds and I have one on flowers, and it just gives you that time and space to study a scene a little bit more closely with a quality professional photo that can help you kind of, if there's an element of your painting that's not quite working, maybe there's a reference here that will help you sort that out. And so I've liked this series. I don't use it as much as I used to because I am pretty happy with the photos I'm taking now. But if you struggle with having, the right photo or the right element in your photo, it can be very helpful to have a book like this. Especially I like his section on skies because it shows all different kinds of cloud formations and gives you the time to study them closely. And I will share a link to that book, if I'm pretty sure it's still in print, in the description for the video. And and what else do I have? Oh, and the scarf I'm wearing is actually one of my paintings, Flight of Fancy. And I love this scarf. It's a cashmere silk blend, and love the little moments of color that are just covering the scarf. And I'll have a link to where you can order your own in the description as well. I want to wish you guys all a wonderful Christmas. I hope you're having a special time with family and friends, and just feeling blessed and loved this holiday. I would wish that for all of us. And again, I will be continuing to share more things. We won't have any live lessons for the next month or so, but there will be more little video snippets on YouTube. And I'm really hoping to have another holiday course. I've done it 2 years in a row now where I've had just a little mini course come out around Christmas. And I'm hoping to get that done as well. I do have a little bundle, and I almost forgot to mention it. I have a winter workshop bundle, which is last year's Christmas winter scene that I did. And the year before I did also a little winter mini course. So I have 2 winter mini courses that are combined. And you save a few dollars if you enroll in those using the link down in the description of this video. Looking at... Oh, you guys are great. Your comments are excellent. You've got some comments on places for people to look for reference images. And, I've got lots of... I'm going to try to reply to some of you personally. Also, if I haven't answered your question and you are in need of an answer, I'm either saving it for a future video, or you can email me, Angie, that's Ange, at angelafehr.com. And I do always try to respond to emails personally. I wish you guys a great holiday, and hopefully we'll connect again over the next few weeks and into the new year. Have a great day.